It's pretty, isn't it? But there's more to this shiny gold block than meets the eye. Leela Quantum seems like something out of a sci-fi movie, but despite how out there it might sound, the company has multiple double-blind studies to back up their claims. And what exactly are those claims? That's what I asked Leela Quantum founder Philipp von Holtzendorff-Fehling. This is a really powerful block, right? This is like charged to be really strong. But for people who don't understand what that means, what does it mean that this is a supercharged block?
Yeah, so we can call it pure quantum energy, or we can call it a high consciousness field. And both of them you can calibrate and actually see what's the concentration of it. So we've been able to harness and concentrate this pure quantum energy into our block. That's the big deal.
Yeah.
And then we figured out how we can actually increase the power of it, or increase the consciousness levels actually. And so this here, the specific one, is very high on that scale. And if you talk about the Hawkins scale that a lot of people are familiar with, this is way above 2000.
What would that mean for somebody who has a block that is at 2000 or even 1000, right? Like let's say they just got the infinity block standard, it's calibrating at Jesus level 1000.
So what the high consciousness field does, it basically brings everything and everyone that's in its reach into optimal balance and moves it into its full potential. So that could be a plant, and the plant would benefit from growing faster. And, we pulled out zucchinis that were this big, 5.5, 6 pound zucchinis this year just by charging it with an infinity block.
And when you say charging them, it's just in the vicinity, or are you actually putting them in there?
No, with plants and vegetables, we just have it in the vicinity because that's enough. We've done some tests, and you don't want to overcharge things either. So it's beneficial for plants, it's beneficial for pets, and then for a human, it really means that, your original blueprint that we all have access to gets translated through the DNA basically into this physical reality. It sounds crazy and woo-woo, but once you understand it, it actually couldn't be any other way, and we can all test it, right? So that's what happens. It brings you into more balance. However, I must say, if someone that has never worked with this type of energy would be sitting where we're sitting right now with this type of block, they would probably start sweating. Detox effects may start, especially if they put their hands inside.
So the way I first learned about Leela was I had just spoken at the biohacking conference in Florida, and I did a healing for this girl on stage, and she said to me after, that experience was the most powerful plus one other thing. And I was like, what was this other thing? And she said something called the Leela Quantum Block. So ever since then, we put our intentions in there. And sometimes when I'm working with a client for my emotional healing sessions, if they're really, really going through it, just for a little extra added support, I put their photo in there, or my intention for them in there. And I do this for my friends and my family too. And without fail, every single time it happens. And the interesting thing is, and I was warned about this, is that it might restructure everything in a way that seems really chaotic and uncomfortable, but it's doing it all for your highest good and for the highest good of the intention that's in that block, which is like spirituality meets science. They have a lot of double-blind scientific studies.
Probably 1,000 pages of studies by now accumulated from 3 different continents and different institutes that test with different testing methods, actually. Wow. I want to highlight maybe 2. One is the Emoto Institute out of Japan. That probably rings a bell for some people. They have tested our blocks in regards to water structuring. And so the quantum block, which is the little brother of this one here, was able to charge and change water to the positive faster than anything they'd ever seen before. And then they did more rigorous testing with it. And now they're actually importing exclusively our products to Japan. Wow. and selling our products to the Japanese people, which they have never done with any other product. And the other is really the dark field microscopy or live blood analysis, which is an amazing tool to diagnose overall health and wellness, because you can look at your blood in a magnified way in real time, literally. So you can see your red blood cells, your white blood cells, and if you introduce something that's detrimental to the body or the energetic system, you can see it. And if something is positive, you can see it right away. Interestingly, if you introduce the infinity block here, just sitting in the room, suddenly your blood improves within minutes. And it's literally happening within like 10 minutes. Wow. And I can say this here out loud because there have been 5 randomized sham-controlled double-blind studies that were done in Europe and in the US. And so we still have to find a single person where that doesn't happen. And even people that don't know anything about dark field microscopy, if you show them a before and after picture, they'll know. They'll be like, wow, this is such a significant difference. This is crazy. Because these blood cells, are like little bubbles, the red blood cells, and they look like money rolls, if they're clotted. And they can get like really clotted, actually. And but just by looking at it, you'll know this is not healthy.
That's scary, yeah.
Exactly. And then you'll see how they separate and the blood gets more oxygenated just by this. And so it's changing, the blood to the positive, even though it's just energy. Oh, what kind of magic? It can't do anything. But in 100% of the cases, we can show that this happens.
Maybe the part that would be difficult for people to understand, I don't even like to say crazy or woo-woo, but that might be a little more abstract, is the way I use it, which is writing down my intentions. For the conference, we're here for the Modern Nirvana conference. I wrote down my intentions for that, and I just leave them in there on a piece of paper. And I really do see them unfold. And sometimes it's uncomfortable. Like sometimes, in order for this to happen, you said you wanted this thing. This other thing needs to get flipped upside down, or this. Sometimes it's not the best, most comfortable situation. But I always see in the end how it did everything to make this happen. And I remember telling you when we first met, I'm like, is this safe in the wrong hands? And you said, well, it can't interfere with like life path. It can't interfere with, it can't do basically bad intentions, right?
That is correct. So it cannot be used for manipulative purposes and even, quote unquote, negative frequencies. Let's say a fear frequency. Mm-hmm. If you wanted to copy a fear frequency in here or transmit it, it couldn't happen because the nature of the pure quantum energy and high consciousness field is to just everything that's against life and consciousness basically gets neutralized. So it's then not even there anymore. It just disappears. It's just But things that are supportive to life and to consciousness, they're amplified and they're supported. And now, there's like this universal flow, the universal, flow that we can't really go against, and then we all have our soul plan, right? That's pretty broad because there's a lot of decisions we can make, but it's still
something within that, right?
Yeah. So if something is going completely against that, then also it wouldn't be supported. But everything that's within that realm of possibility is that's on that path, you can amplify it and manifest it way quicker. Because it's a high consciousness field. It's as if, so people know that if I say, I feel good, and then if I also feel like I feel good, like I'll get into that state. That's how you call in manifestation of, certain states of consciousness, for example, or even, I don't know, if people want to be healthy, people do that. They just repeat
affirmations
it all.
over and
affirmations,
over, yeah.
Exactly. That's the word I was looking for. And so this can get amplified by a million, and does it constantly if you just put it in this block.
When we were just at the biohacking conference last week, somebody said, if you put your ring in there, I was wearing a ring, they said it'll be more beautiful. And since I did it a week ago, people have been nonstop complimenting my ring. And why is that? Like, why metal specifically?
So first of all, what's happening is that any object you put in, you raise the vibration of that object. And plastics, glass, and regular fabrics, for example, don't hold quantum energy very well because of the density. So metals are extremely dense, and they can transmit quantum energy very well. So they don't just hold it, they transmit it literally. And some people, that can see energy, they will see, oh my God, on what a level this is vibrating. But then even people that can't see energy,
They just
They'll
know
be
they like it, right?
Yeah, it's this is so beautiful, and they can't even tell why that is. But that's what's happening. So if you put gold or silver in as an example, it just upgrades it.